So when a Venezuelan gets asked, where are you from, it's kind of difficult. It's not an easy answer. I was born in Venezuela. I live in Baltimore since 1991, and I've been a political activist in DC since approximately 2008. I've been a member of the Venezuelan community ever since. I have participated in elections inside that building, and now we have this. This is what's going on. It's something that is not very easy to understand. So we're gonna try and explain it to you guys. So basically, we have a group, a feminist group from the U.S. called CODEPINK. They're on their baseline, they claim to be a feminist group, and for it, I actually went to the first women's march about 3 years ago here in DC as a feminist. Now it turns out that they're in the business of invading embassies. We have a group of Venezuelans that want them out of the embassy. So how do we get to this place? We have a current government of Venezuela. There was an election there about last year, which no one has recognized as a legitimate election. Most of the opposition leaders are in jail right now. Maduro was the only person in the race, and an ex-person from his party, his name is Henry Falcon, was part of that election. It was tainted from the beginning, and it was being hard for Nicolas Maduro to be recognized as the legitimate president of Venezuela. We have a guy called Juan Guaidó. CODEPINK claims that this guy did a coup in Venezuela. He happens to be the president of the National Assembly. In the Venezuelan Constitution, there is an article that says that when a president's term expires, which it did in January 6th, I believe, of this year, the president of the National Assembly can declare himself president, not to be the president himself, but to call for new elections. The problem is that in Venezuela, we have a mess of our powers. The executive power, the legislative power, and the National Assembly. As it is, we have two of them right now. We have two presidents, we have two people claiming to be the legitimate Supreme Court, and the same as the National Assembly. They have parallel powers. So governing Venezuela is very, very difficult, and very people understand and know anything about this. So we have the group CODEPINK basically saying that they're defending the Venezuelan people, and they don't want the people, they don't want America to invade Venezuela because of the record that the United States has of invading other countries, which I happen partially to agree with. But let's talk about Colombia, for instance. Let's talk about Panama. Where would they be today would not be for the actions taken by the U.S. government. Pablo Escobar was hunted with the aid of the U.S. government. Same thing with Panama. They would have basically pretty much a narco government if it wasn't for the U.S. That's precisely what we're trying to go here. Venezuela has become a failed state. Okay, we have what is called an electoral dictatorship, where you can govern by getting reelected every time you want by running your own electoral system. It's impossible, next to impossible to win an election in Venezuela. Venezuelans that you see here, CODEPINK has accused them of being racist, white supremacists, privileged white people, and I just happen to be a very diverse person, and my friends are not what they claim they are. They're very diverse people. Yes, they happen to speak English because they've been living here for a while. They were able to get out of Venezuela before things got really bad in Venezuela, and now they're here, and they're professionals, and they're young people, and they just happen to be fluent in English. It doesn't make them a bad person. We have people inside the embassy like Alex Rubenstein, bad-mouthing my friends, telling them that they're just bad people in general. And I like Alex to come down here and talk to us. You're a reporter. I try to do a job of reporting myself as a Venezuelan American. I try to be as impartial as I can, try to cover both sides, and I just realized it's next to impossible. People need to listen to both sides of the story. I'm going to thank Andrew for doing his job of helping us cover both sides of the story. And we want you to come here and understand that CODEPINK is very welcome to do his protest for anti-war efforts at the White House, not inside somebody else's embassy.
One of the things I've kind of been noticing is that sort of carry the mantle of democracy and anti-imperialism. Can you kind of describe, I guess, which side do you see as having those values, and then to the side that doesn't, in your view, why you think that they might be sort of misguided?
Well, nowadays, using the word anti-imperialism is very difficult. It's very complex. We live in a very complex world. You and I happen to be Americans. We are born here. We're raised Americans, and colonialism, imperialism is just a fact of our history. Okay, but the one thing that is disturbing to me is the disguise of the group CODEPINK that claims to be himself a feminist group, but they're really doing a lot of Marxist lefties guidance to young people, and using their what's it called, their NGO status to abuse that. So, as far as being anti-imperialism, I don't want the United States invading any countries. We were aware what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, Libya. I fully understand that. And CODEPINK has every right to go to the White House and go to Congress and lobby against it. At the beginning of all of this, I was actually trying to keep understanding, explaining to my fellow Venezuelans that they had a right to do that. They had a right to lobby their congressman and say, look, we don't want any involvement in Venezuela. They're correct about that. But you have to understand, these people are refugees. These people are not here because they want to be here. These people are here because they're refugees of a failed state, and they want to be able to somehow get their country back. One of the claims that CODEPINK does is that Carlos Vecchio will not be able to give any visas or passports. Well, guess what? We can't get any passports or visas in Venezuela either. Half of these people don't have valid passports because in a failed state, you can't get passports either.
So, what do you actually want the U.S. government to be doing, both as it relates to Venezuela, but also as it relates to what's going on, right behind you?
It's a very difficult question because there's the argument for invasion, so-called invasion, there's an argument against it. Me openly saying that I'm pro-invasion, who am I to say that? The one thing I can tell you is that I know that the civil society of Venezuela had tried by every means, electoral protest, for 20 years to get rid of a dictatorship. And by themselves, they can't do it. You can't. When you're a person that's being kidnapped by a bad person, that person cannot free himself by his own. They need help with somebody else. And nobody wants this to happen. Nobody wants to see dead people in Venezuela. I don't want to see my country destroyed. But we need help. And the U.S. government, the current administration, is willing to help. That doesn't make me a Trump lover or a Obama lover. It's just like these people need help, and it has to come by some kind of military action of a consensus of countries willing to do it.
And so I'd love if you could also talk about, people kind of talk about Guaidó kind of relative to this conflict, or Trump supporting Guaidó, U.S. recognizes Guaidó. Can you tell me about, do people actually support Guaidó on this side, and if so, sort of why? What is it about?
You have to have a good understanding of how Venezuelan politics work.
Right.
You really, if you were Venezuelan, you'll know that we have what is called a messianic issue. When anybody comes to the forefront of the political system in Venezuela, we want that person, whomever it is, to help us get rid of Chavismo. In this case, the turn is for Juan Guaidó, a very young guy. He's an engineer, which CODEPINK claims is a CIA-trained operative. This guy is 34 years old. He went to school in Georgetown, I believe, for about a year or so. Yeah, George Washington, for about a year. CODEPINK claims that he's some kind of Manchurian candidate trained by the U.S. government, which is completely ridiculous, whomever was the president of the National Assembly at the time that Maduro's regime expired was going to have to take that decision of making himself president so that he can call up for elections in 3 months. However, he has the lack of support of the military because Hugo Chavez made sure that the loyalty of the military is to the president, the Hugo Chavez or Nicolas Maduro, and not the constitution of the Venezuelan people. That is the only reason. It took them 20 years to completely destroy our armed forces into the same way Hitler did it, you're not gonna protect Germany, you're gonna protect me. That's exactly what Chavismo did in Venezuela.
I've heard one sort of solution, and maybe it wouldn't be seen as a solution, but on this side they suggest the idea of handing the embassy over to a third party and then waiting to see how the situation shakes out in Venezuela. Right? I mean, in the event that Juan Guaidó is recognized by the military, or on the other hand, that he's not. That basically you would hand it over and then wait. How do you sort of respond to their claim?
I mean, this is the first I heard of it, but honestly, they have been in there victimizing themselves, milking this for media attention, claiming that we want to starve to death. All they have to do is step out and go up the street and have them sell some food. Okay, it's that simple. Medea and Ariel is staying 2 blocks up the street on the Four Seasons, so they can step out at any time. We don't want any violence. We don't want to hurt anybody. This is as grassroots as it gets. This is mom and pop. I have friends that have been here now work for a week. I don't know if they can make the decision themselves and handing it over to a third party, but if they stepped out, I guarantee you all of these people will just go home. And because then we'll let Vecchio or Trump or whomever is in charge make the important decisions on who is going to own this place, you know? This is never, I asked the Secret Service, and this has never happened in the history of the United States. No one has ever invaded somebody else's embassy, okay? We're just regular folks. I can't imagine them invading like a country like Iran's or Turkey's or some other more radical countries. I guarantee you they won't be chanting. It will be something far worse, and people are not playing around. We're just regular people that are offended that anyone, not just CODEPINK, anyone that is not Venezuelan is not allowed into their own embassy, okay? They claim to be guests of Nicolas Maduro. That's all fine and dandy, but we're telling them we're also Venezuelans. We hold a passport. We have as much right as anybody to go in there and do anything.
I had a question from my colleague Alejandro Alvarez, who's watching this.
Hi, Alejandro.
He asked, he's seen a lot of signs, mostly on your side, pertaining to Cuba. What do you see as Cuba's role in all of this?
Okay, I could talk about this for a day, okay? So basically, okay, short version, Cuba, 6 years of embargo. How do I survive? Let me just go leech on other countries. They tried to leech in Venezuela for many, many years, and they never could until Hugo Chavez came to power. Fidel Castro took Hugo Chavez under his wing and basically saw us as golden boy. They talk about crude for oil. The United States has purchased oil from Venezuela for 100 years. We would not have an oil industry if it wasn't for the United States to begin with. The United States always paid their bills. We were able to build a refinery in Texas or New Orleans for Citgo that can process our very heavy crude oil. And Chavez has been sending Cuba about 500,000 barrels of oil a day, which Cuba then turns around and sells at a profit. Okay? Now, I just read an article today in The Guardian saying that shit in Cuba is getting really tight because they don't have any money anymore because Venezuela has become a failed state. Well, guess where they're going? They're going to Mexico now. They have AMLO, a very communist-friendly government. Now Cuba's going to leash on them because that's what Cuba does. That's how they've been able to survive. Because when the Soviet Union fell, guess what? Oh, Chavez came to save us. That's my take on Cuba.
So unless anybody else asks a question kind of in the meantime, I guess my last thing would be, is there anything else that you sort of want to add? Especially given that people who are watching might be on either side of it. So if this was sort of your opportunity to have a civil and relatively quiet moment to sort of speak to the other side, you know, what would you want them to know?
I just want to know from the bottom of my heart, I'm a Venezuelan American. We're not violent people. The reason why we're here is because we're refugees. We're not privileged. The people that were able to make it here is because they had a family member that came to the United States a while ago and they were able to bring them home, bring them here so they can make a life for themselves. We have wasted 20 years of our lives. I have not been able to enjoy my country for 20 years. I have a 13-year-old daughter I haven't been able to take to Venezuela like everybody else does. I talk to my Colombian friends, my Argentinian friends. Everybody goes home for the holidays. I can't do that. Venezuela has become a failed state, okay? And anybody that supports Maduro is insane. CODEPINK has decided to side with Maduro. I don't know what's behind it. One day we'll find out. As decent Americans, I ask them, please, just leave the embassy. You can go eat, you can have a shower, you can have some water. You could probably come talk to these people, but you're making a mockery out of being an American citizen. This is not how you do things. The White House is just down the street, Congress down the street. I will support you for any peace efforts, but don't disguise yourself as feminists or peacemakers by doing this, because this is not peaceful. This is an act of violence.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your, or do it that way. I appreciate you sharing your perspective. Thank you for sort of coming out here.
Thank you for